Morning and welcome to Thoughts and Updates. Here we are on a Sunday in January. Behind me, I wonder if I can just show, there is a frozen part of the canal behind me, but no snow. The snow has disappeared, although we did have a brilliant flurry of it during the course of the week. Don't know if it's going to come back. It's certainly been prevalent throughout the whole of the central belt of Scotland. But here we are once again in lockdown, still at the house, not meandering about to find places to go to. Not because I'm not allowed to, because we can stay local and go to places, but because it is still a very virulent strain of virus out there, which we should be taking as many precautions as possible in order to avoid. Often people conflagrate the idea of stopping the virus with managing it. The fact of the matter is that we're managing the virus, we're not stopping it yet. And the rollout of the vaccine seems to be part of that process, not the whole process. One of the things that I think some people believe it's going to be is a magic bullet. The people who believe that, of course, are the ones who don't believe that they want to take it because they happen to be anti-vaxxers. So this week, that kind of conspiracy theorist who don't believe in the vaccination and other things are up there, aren't they, in terms of the news. But before I get there, writing this week, I'm back on it. Not a lot happening in boxing, which is unfortunate, though I'll come back to something that is due to happen in the course of this coming week on Friday night. Also, I've been writing about the comeback of boxing once we get through this and whether or not we should indulge in the circus that is being suggested for a number of matchups. Also, we'll come back to some of that as well. For Ringside Reports, I've been doing a little piece on Frankie Randall, who lost his life just before Christmas. Not quite 60, I think it was 59 when he died, dealing with pugilistic dementia and Parkinson's, which are both related to the sport. Also looking at Mr. Trump and his Twitter ban and the insurrection. More of that in a little while. Also for Scottish Football Supporters Association, I'm writing about the cup ties over the weekend, and also Mr. Mourinho appears before the Beaks at the SFA in order to respond to his comments with regards to the unprofessional nature of any footballing body, as he did with the FA and the postponement that Tottenham had with Fulham during the last couple of weeks. Back reviewing, looked at Rapunzel for the National Theatre of Scotland, that's due to go up, and also been blogging in terms of venue loss, which might happen during the course of this coming year. But also looking at more in-depth work. The Scottish Football Supporters Association, Why I Love My Club book that I'm editing is almost coming to an end. We've got a few clubs still missing. Hamilton Accies, Aberdeen and Stenhousemuirs came in during the course of the holidays, so at least one of them still to be edited, two of them bang on. I have to say some of these contributions are fan-bleeding-tastic. And also started looking at a variety of topics more in depth to go up and to perhaps find a place during the course of this year, which are, now it's 8:30 in the morning, I don't know if you can hear the start of somebody revving up their tools to get working. We like to start early here, obviously, kicking in terms of the work on a Sunday morning. So, moving on. A couple of things during the week. What have I learned this week? The first thing I learned was that insurrection is not necessarily something that democracies happen to be immune from. The scenes on Wednesday last week of what happened in Capitol Hill with regards to those conspiracy theorists and Trump supporters, fueled by the rhetoric of Donald Trump, encouraged by him on the day to march upon Capitol Hill, have gone viral throughout the world, rightly so. People have talked about how they felt it was like the Arab Spring or the Orange Revolution in the Ukraine, because there was a feeling that these people represented the march against tyranny that many of these other former Soviet bloc countries or former Arab dictatorships had suffered from for many, many years. And yet these were people who had no desire for democracy, no need to complain against democracy. If anything, democracy had been their greatest enemy because it was about to remove the person that they believed happened to be the head of their religion, their church, their belief system, Donald John Trump. Over the last few days, I've been listening to podcasts and reflections from a variety of journalists and a variety of people with regards to this and what should happen now. On the 20th of January, Donald Trump will cease being the President of the United States and Joe Biden shall become the President of the United States. The Republicans are split. There are those who are continuing to support Donald Trump because they are terrified, fearful of what effect they may have if they move away from supporting him because he has such a strong following within the Republican movement. That's not the Republican Party, but the Republican movement. Then there are those who've said enough's enough. We can't support this guy anymore. And we're going to have to wake up to the reality that is out there. That is far too late. That should have happened like Senator John McCain had done many, many years before and warned against this particular individual having any form of safety and security and authority. But is it better late than never? I don't know. What I do know is that the next few days are terrifying. The possibility of using the 25th Amendment to have him removed from office has started to gain some kind of traction in terms of people looking at Spence, the Vice President, who is often said if you want to see how much your partner loves you, then what you want to see is how much they look at you, the way in which Spence looks at Donald Trump. That look is of absolute and total adoration. We need now to see some kind of movement change to what is likely to happen within the context of Trump and the presidency. Because if we don't see some kind of movement from the Republicans away from Trumpism, then this is a movement that is going to continue to infect mainstream politics in America and beyond for many years to come. They are a fringe grouping, but they also attract people who are not engaged with the democratic movement within any society. We saw it here with the Brexit Party. You see it in Poland, you see it in Austria, you see it all over the world. We need to re-engage with these people. That doesn't mean that what we need to do is kowtow to them or we need to give them some sort of concession, but we need to find a way to convince them to come back into the mainstream. One of the ways of doing that, I think, and one of the things that was suggested yesterday was, when Gerald Ford took over the presidency, the first thing he did was to pardon Richard Nixon, and a move that was designed to allow people to breathe easily and move on from the Watergate scandal. The opposite should be the case here. There should be no pardons for Donald Trump. There should be the opposite. With vigour, they should prosecute his wrongdoing. And over the next 2 to 3 months, I fully expect that what we're going to see is a number of people coming forward with stories of what happened during the Trump presidency. And we should have no doubt that those stories are not only true, but should be prosecuted to the fullness of their law. A heavyweight thought, and as I segue from that into the second thing I've learnt this week. The only boxing match that is of any value or indeed of any note, it would appear, is in Dubai on Friday night. Stephen Ward from Belfast has moved from light heavyweight into cruiserweight, and he was asked to go and help somebody spar and prepare for a grudge match that they are planning sometime during the course of this year. The grudge match is the Mountain from Game of Thrones, Hafthor Bjornsson, who was the 2018 World's Strongest Man, who will be fighting Eddie Hall in a boxing ring, who was the 2017 World's Strongest Man, in a grudge match because in 2017 Hafthor Bjornsson suggested that Eddie Hall and Colin Bryce, the World's Strongest Man referee, had conspired in order to deny him the title during something called the Viking press, where he double dipped and therefore had one repetition removed, and Eddie Hall won the competition by 1 point, and the contention is that the Viking press therefore, that part of the competition, became where Bjornsson lost. So Hall and Bjornsson since 2017 have been going at it on Twitter and social media and elsewhere. There was a release of a video over the course of the last wee while which I picked up during the course of the week, which actually proves, in my view, that Eddie Hall and Colin Bryce did not conspire, did not deny Bjornsson, but there's going to settle in a boxing ring. Now, Stephen Ward unwittingly has now become part of this circus, and it's a worry for me because both Bjornsson and Eddie Hall are monsters. This is probably, and it has been titled as, the heaviest boxing match in history. These aren't people who have built up their bodies in order to be elite sportsmen in a combat sport. These are people who have built up their bodies in order to lift weights, to do multiple repetitions of death-defying presses. They have pulled airplanes. They have not pulled punches. This potentially, for me, has disaster written all over it, and for Stephen Ward to go into a ring with somebody with that kind of power in their arms and shoulders and in their body is not necessarily a good thing, and the sport of boxing will be tarred with it. Now, there's no way on this earth, given the amount of money that's probably involved, that Stephen Ward is going to watch me suggesting you shouldn't do it and go, do you know what, I've suddenly come to my senses. But on Saturday morning, I hope that what I'll be reading is that the whole thing went off without any long-term injuries. So, with all of that, it is time for me to go off and spend yet another day in lockdown. Keep safe, keep wearing a mask, keep distance between you and others, and ensure that you're still with us next week when I see you again for more thoughts and updates. Bye for now.